Cheers.
Yes.
All right, welcome to our podcast.
We're so glad that you're tuning in to Happy Siblings.
We will be taking you through all types of topics through the lens of conservatism and kind of introducing to the world Gen Z, how Gen Z can also be conservative.
Zoomers.
The Zoom babies. And that it's important to still, no matter how times change, to still be having this very strong foundation of being conservative.
Yes. Yes.
Right, so I guess if you want to talk about structure, you could say we always do an intro, then we introduce the question, and then we go into our answers.
Yeah. So the structure of our show will be an intro, simply, what we've maybe been up to this week or month or however. I don't know what our...
I think it'll be monthly.
Monthly, yeah. And then we'll discuss the topic of the show, give sort of the overarching questions and things we want to pinpoint maybe in that particular show, and then talk about personal experiences and go on from there.
Awesome. So do you want to introduce the first topic for today?
No, you do.
What does it mean to be conservative?
Depends on how old you are. Because as a kid,
Right.
it was a lot different in many ways, but similar in a lot of other ways to how it is now. I know going to school, I can clearly remember times where, and I mean, we went to a very liberal school.
Yeah.
I can clearly remember times where I was the only one in my class standing up for some topic. I forget exactly what it was, but it was in the history class. And for some reason, the teacher just wasn't paying attention or something. Maybe it was during breaks between classes. And all of these people were standing around me. And I've always been the taller person in the class. And I clearly remember looking down at all these people that were all these other kids that were surrounding me, and ganging up on me about some viewpoint that I had as a sixth grader. I did not have that same issue in public school, actually. I didn't have that.
Really?
I didn't, yeah. I guess I wasn't there for long enough. But you probably had a different experience.
Right. Talking about it school and having just these awkward moments of trying to defend either being a conservative Catholic or just a conservative Republican. I remember my English AP Lang class. Oh my gosh. I still cringe about this moment because they told us to pick any topic that had some kind of political controversy. And I picked the topic of legal immigration and illegal immigration. Mm-hmm. And talking about how the United States was built on Christian values and morals, mm-hmm. and how we are a sovereign country. And entry into this country, the first thing that you do has to be legal. And everybody hated me from then on. I remember standing in front of the class, literally shaking with my paper, being like, oh. And nobody clapped for me at the end. It was terrifying.
Oh my goodness.
But then, the next day, because it was a week long where we did presentations, the next day, this Asian boy, he stood up and he talked about how his family immigrated legally to the United States. He just was very charismatic with his paper and his presentation.
Agape.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where he was like, your boy wouldn't have been here if it weren't for legal immigration and our sovereign country. And then everyone's like, yes, so amazing.
Wow.
And I'm just like, okay, the white girl can't stand up and talk about how, like, she loves her country and she loves that, we have all these important rules to being an American citizen. But I just remember he said, your boy. And I'm like, yes, your boy. Being conservative as a student, a young student, middle school, where you're starting to understand certain things and topics, and then also high school, where it's like, ooh, baby. So I guess shifting more back into why be conservative today as a young adult, Gen Z, how do you use the morals and the ideas based around being conservative in your daily life?
I guess I should wrap up that point. What I was saying, how it's different being, what does it mean to be conservative, right? I was saying how it was different when I was, young like that, but still similar, in some cases. And yeah, I mean, it's been, I've had similar experiences, even in the workplace, where, it's me versus like three other people. And I guess that just speaks to the kind of industries I work in. But yeah, my first internship was like that. That was really interesting. And then it's different now to be an older and a conservative in that I'm much more familiar with the principles behind it. I can have a much more intelligent debate. And I also believe that it's easier for me to hear what they're saying as well, because as a kid I was also just
Wanting to be right.
yeah
and
exactly,
not knowing how to listen and understand
Yeah.
and have some logical debate back and forth.
yeah in terms of social interaction. I think for most conservative, that's probably, at least who grew up in liberal settings, that's probably the case.
Just how do you practice it day to day?
Oh,
Or not even practice it, but, like...
live in it.
Yeah, being conservative is a lifestyle. It spans so many different areas of life. And just maybe touch on a couple of those.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I'm, driving to work and I turn on, either I'm talking to my mom or I'm listening to the morning talk show, radio show hosts. They're fun. They're a fun bunch, and that's like such a conservative thing to do.
Oh, yeah.
The radio, at least. A lot of liberals I know like to listen to their Ezra Klein podcasts and This American Life and all these things, PBS stations and stuff like that. But talk show radio is purely conservative, so that's one thing.
Yeah, I mean, we grew up with talk show. Like, we were Rush Limbaugh babies.
Yeah.
So,
Rush
like,
Limbaugh babies.
we didn't grow up with listening to like pop culture or music in the car. It was always Rush Limbaugh,
Mark Levin,
memorizing his telephone number,
Yes.
going back and forth from Granny's house.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then they always switched around the afternoon show hosts and the morning show hosts. Larry O'Connor, whoever else. Oh, Sean Hannity. That was like when he was on the radio. Yeah, Chris Plant. Yeah. Then I'm also a huge news junkie. Always on Citizens Free Press, scrolling. I'm so addicted. So that's throughout the day, something I don't think there's maybe one other guy in the office that browses the news during the day, but I'm the only one.
Yeah, I'm thinking of some of my conservative friends who are just very much live and breathe politics.
Yeah.
But it's so important because I'll never forget this. When I was in the Middle East, my taxi driver asked me, he said, "Who did you vote for?" And the United States, this is such a taboo question.
Yeah.
Like, you're like, oh, I can't say, like, that's so private. And I was like, yeah, I voted for Trump. And he was like, good, because when you vote for America, you vote for the world.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be constantly knowing what's happening in your country.
Yeah.
And if you don't, and you're uneducated, and you're like, oh, it's election day, I'm going to vote for whoever everybody else is saying, and you just go with the flow, then you're not really considering the whole world. It's a very selfish approach.
Yeah, and not to mention like uninformed. I mean, but people get their news sources from different places, so they get wrangled up in one line of politics and
Right.
sort of tend to stay there.
Yeah, I think it's interesting how you talked about talk radio. Something about talk radio is it's hard to get through. You only usually hear one person speaking, and they go through topics. Maybe they play little audio clips every
Yeah.
now and then. But you don't really have the fun, flashy, like, ooh, it's, Good Morning America.
Uh-huh.
It's like, it's hard to get through. And then you sit through the ads, and then you wait for
Yeah.
the person to get back on.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not even for that long, and they give their little bit about what happened with this person or that person.
Yeah.
You need to have some patience with talk radio.
Yeah, definitely.
For me, like I said, I think conservatism spans throughout all aspects of my life. I think about the way that I am strong in my faith as a Catholic conservative, and politically active in conservatism, and then as well as thinking about femininity and how you can be conservative in your femininity, and then also all these different things, just growing up, thinking about education, how you have to be super strong in your values being conservative. I think living in the United States, being a Christian nation built on Christian morals and values, it's extremely important to stay conservative. Thinking about conservatism from the beginning of our country, like the Constitution, how all of our founding fathers were very much conservative.
By today's standards, yes.
And how we really need to get back to this idea of why was the United States founded, and how can we keep it strong from what it looked like from the very beginning.
Yeah. I think, you were talking about thinking about the core values of the country. And I think that a very important part of a conservative today is to actually think about how the other side thinks about our views, because in that way we are better able to
Open-minded.
well yeah and also better able to understand our opinions, our
Perspectives.
and our principles. And I think that's an incredibly important thing to do. And sometimes that can take people to the edge of where, like, am I where they start questioning their own conservative values. But I think that's where we learn the most about how to defend that. And talking with other people about their views is the best way to do that.
Conservatism being strong and steady since the beginning of time, meaning that we were just talking about this, about faith, and how Jesus said, upon this rock I will build my church, and how the rock is actually a strong foundation. And even thinking about the parable of the man who built his house on sand, and how it was then destroyed, and how you need to have a solid foundation, rock solid foundation, for how you live your life.
I've heard the phrase tough love a lot when talking about being Christian or being conservative. It's facing a reality and coming to terms with that as an individual. I think is at the core of conservatism, because otherwise, the other option is to kind of be numb to it, and make your own truth with the help of the government or some woke university professor.
Oh my gosh.
So, you know.
Yeah. I think.
I luckily I never really had that experience.
Oh my gosh.
Because
I had it all the time.
I went to a STEM school.
Right.
And that just wasn't. We had a lot of other work to do, so we never really got into that.
Last question should be, why should you be conservative, and how is it going to help you in your day-to-day life?
It will give you a great wealth. So my first take is it'll give you a greater appreciation for the company you work at, for example, all the work that it took to make that, and the opportunity it presents to you in the future, and to many others. I think, just give you great appreciation for all of that.
I think that's good how you talked about appreciation. I think that being conservative really touches on appreciation and just like even in the little thing. How being conservative has, we talked about this truth to it. So living your life in truth. And what does that look like? And if you start living your life in truth and reality, you're going to start to see a change. Thank you so much for tuning in to Happy Siblings.
Yeah, this is fun. This is our first take, so we hope you enjoy it.
Next episode, we're going to be telling you how our meeting former President Trump goes. So stick around for that.
Hey, I'm Ives.
I'm Felicitas. And we'll catch you next time.